Well, I had so much fun talking about flat earthers and their claim regarding aircraft level flight. I decided to tackle the whole flyer, one paragraph at a time. They do change their flyers quite often, and what is number 1 in my flyer is number 4 in the new ones. Oh well, let's follow the one I have, with newer image if they have any. Water is a natural level. No curvature is ever detected over bodies of water. All liquids, when undisturbed, are flawlessly flat. Earlier, they also had the additional text, "Water doesn't curve." I assume they either finally figured out what electromagnetic force and surface tension is, or maybe they finally looked at water. Now, some of them have moved the goalpost. Instead, now the saying is, water does curve in certain situations, waterfalls, raindrops, etc., but bodies of water, lakes, ponds, oceans do not curve. I guess this picture is photoshopped then? So what their argument is, on a flat earth, it makes sense to them that water would be flat. You can imagine this to be like water in a bucket. Whereas they think in a round earth, they should be able to see the curvature, but they see it as flawlessly flat and they put it so eloquently. So which part of water can't curve around and stick to a spinning ball can't you understand? Or if water were a giant sphere hurtling through infinite space, then flat level surfaces would not exist here. Well, first of all, how does water behave? When we say level, we really mean water being as close to the center of the earth as possible. So if you imagine a vector from each point of the surface of the water to the center of gravity of the earth, they would all be roughly the same. Obviously, there are additional influences that causes ripples, tides, and so on. Now we know the gravity is 9.8 meter per second squared. But that is not entirely true. There are slight variations in the value of g about Earth's surface. These variations result from the varying density of the geological structure below each specific surface location. They also result from the fact that the Earth is not truly spherical. The Earth's surface is farther from its center at the equator than it's at the pole. This would result in larger g values at the pole. Water tends to puddle more near the dense spots. On top of that, we have these silly things called continent that raises from our ellipsoid Earth. And because of the sheer size of these continents, they also add to the gravitational attraction. What does that all mean? Well, it means sea level is not the same all over the world. Shocking, right? For instance, the absolute water level height is higher along the west coast of the United States than the east coast. So when we talk about sea level, we are generally talking about global sea level, which refers to the average height of all the Earth's ocean basins. Local sea level refers to the height of the water measured along the coast relative to a specific point on land. Tide stations measure local sea level. You're seeing an image from National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. The surface of the Pacific Ocean stands about 40 cm higher than the Atlantic Ocean with respect to the 1000 decibel surface, and the North Atlantic and North Pacific stands respectively about 14 and 17 cm higher than the South Atlantic and Pacific. Now this demonstrates that it is not the same level around the whole globe. So one point debunked. In March 2009, European Space Agency, better known as ESA, launched its environmental satellite GOCHI. It is positioned at very low orbit, only 250 km above the Earth's surface. From that orbit, GOCHI measures planet's gravity field with a very high precision, and this data representation is called geode. This gives us a better understanding of what is going under the surface. Next, why can't you see the curvature of the water? The problem with all these flat earthers that they all follow the jetetic philosophy, which basically means observation trumps all and only trust your own observation. So if it looks flat, it must be flat, and if someone else took any picture, it doesn't count. Couple of things to point out here. First of all, the sentence itself is a misnomer, as we're really talking about the horizon curve around us and not the curvature of the earth, and technically is an indirect observation. After being pedantic about that, what do you really mean by seeing? Virtually all camera lenses suffer from barrel distortion, and to accurately assess this curvature from a photograph, the horizon must be placed precisely in the center of the optical axis. And obviously our eye has a lot less resolution. I have seen photographs taken from only 200-meter elevation with a 94.4 degree of field of view, where a 4000 pixels wide image shows a 7 pixel vertical change on horizon. And obviously it's imperceivable to naked eye. With nearly cloud-free environment, naked eye can see the curvature at or slightly below 35,000 feet, provided the field of view is at least 60 degrees. And this field of view is what mostly limits us from seeing the curvature at commercial flights. But this is the catch-22. Even if we take their rapper Bob all the way up to space, and he sees the curvature with his own eyes, the remaining flat earthers would say that Bob has been bought and turned. So in essence, we'd have to fly every single one of them. Even then, knowing them, they would just resist the result.
We obviously were not willing to accept that, and so we started looking for ways to disprove that it was actually registering the motion of the Earth and that it in fact was registering the motion of the sky.
On a side note, they do like to throw in the argument that all the pictures showing curve is taken using a fisheye lens. Well, if we understand what kind of distortion a fisheye lens make, we can then establish which images were taken with fisheye and which ones are not. For fisheye, the distortion happens from the center, and further you go from the center, the bulgier it gets. And a straight line would always appear straight if it crosses the center of the frame. This is that barrel distortion I mentioned earlier. But none of it matters because jetetic philosophy. Finally, the point from updated image and hurtling giant sphere. Well, on this giant sphere, water is finding its so-called level thanks to gravity, and that's it. Gravity is a really weak force, but once again, the Earth is massive. You can imagine this force as a gradient, and diminishes as it goes farther away from center. Molecules in our atmosphere are constantly moving, spurred on by energizing sunlight. Some move quickly enough to escape the grip of Earth's gravity. The escape velocity for planet Earth is a little over 11 km per second, about 25,000 miles an hour. Light particles like hydrogen and helium typically move faster than heavier ones like oxygen and nitrogen, and are more likely to reach escape velocity and escape to space. That's why light molecules are rare in our atmosphere in contrast to their abundance in the universe at large. This is why, though Earth is hurtling through infinite space, water and atmosphere still sticks to it. Well, I guess that covers all the points this slide makes. Thank you for watching, and I do hope that you have enjoyed it. If so, can I please ask you to like and maybe leave a comment as well? If you can also subscribe, that would definitely help this channel grow and would be thoroughly appreciated. Have a safe day. Signing off.
We are one people, and try.